Well, hello guys, my name is Pandox and today I've brought you the top 10 martial arts manhwa out there. So without any further ado, let's open the box. Number 10. Peerless Dad. From the same original author of Red Storm, Peerless Dad is a wholesome yet epic story about a father who tries to look after his three children without the mother being there. He uses martial arts, which are revealed later on to be the arts of someone who was famous among the greatest martial artists of Murim. And even when battling, this dad only thinks of his beloved children and does everything he could to return to them, so he can make sure they are still okay. This story has a great art style and it's well narrated. The journey of the main character takes him through marriage, fatherhood, and greatness. There's only one downside I would say to his character, and that he is stupid in some occasions. For instance, he is relatively powerful in the world of Merim, but still thinks he is weak. Of course, that partially has something to do with his late teacher, who always said to him that the world of Murim is far beyond his capabilities. I rarely find such a story that combines so many aspects and succeeds in every part of them. I highly recommend you to give it a try if you haven't yet, and you will most likely love it. Number 9. Reverse Villain. It is a story about a main character who's been reincarnated over the ages alongside his nemesis. His main objective has always been to conquer Murim, but in every life he lives, his major enemy stands in his way till the last moment and causes him to fade. After he's been reincarnated 6 times, he is now living a life in the modern world. It is a world of gates and hunters, yet the story does not focus much on that, but instead on the conflicts between big and famous families, with the main character being at the center of all of that. The main character trains from a very young age and is able to defeat undefeatable monsters within less than 10 years. He grows up eventually and forms some connections while having the upper hand in all of them. His fighting abilities are so overpowered that no one can stand a chance with him. No one could ever beat up this ultimate main character who's a villain with principles. There are few threats for him, and they are only from his past lives. One of them is his nemesis, of course. Such enemies are the only ones who have martial arts that can compete with his. If you want a villain who does not go and kill everybody without thinking, this is the one for you. A bonus is, of course, the great art style. Number 8. Legend of the Northern Blade. This story is about a man who was just an innocent boy when his sex was betrayed by everyone and his father was killed. After he was left alone, monitored all the time by the enemies, he who supposedly had no way to learn martial arts acquires a secret technique through a method only he and his late father know. He endures the torture, pain, and humiliation, goes in solitude for years, and then emerges as a grown-up man who has mastered the secret martial arts, and now he holds the power and ambition to avenge his father and destroy his enemies. He starts his journey alone, but on the way he picks up a few people who wish to follow him. I like this manhwa because of its classical art style that fits the story so much and also because of how moderately paced it is. There are so many cool scenes that would make you fall in love with this manhwa if you're looking for that. And of course this story has some comedy, tragedy and self-conflict as well, with a lot of bloodshed. I recommend this for people who are interested in a cool-headed main character with ideals and principles who is not totally blinded by his desire for revenge. Number 7. Poison Dragon, The Legend of an Asura. This story begins with the main character whose sect is mercilessly massacred alongside with other sects of the medicine faction for the own good of a plotter who acts graciously and venerably to hide his vile and evil nature. The main character is caught as an aftermath and used as a guinea pig for testing all different poisons, since he is very tolerant and immune to poison. But after he runs away somehow and joins other survivors from the attack of the poison sects which were sent by the plotter, he faces the enemies once again and becomes entrapped in a cave with the others with him. They all die from hunger, but the main character survives on poisonous water and weed for years and eventually makes it out from the cave. Now he is a beast without shackles, whose only purpose in life is to revenge the destruction of his sect and the death of his family and people who were kind to him in the cave. This is a story of a disaster that is born because of people's greed, selfishness and ambition. This is the story of Jin Jakang, who will be widely known as the Poison Dragon. Also, there is an unexpected villain in this story who is not that plotter, and honestly what made me fall in love with this manhwa is none other than that villain. I highly recommend this manhwa just for the sake of that villain, and believe me, you will not regret it. Number 6. The Undefeatable Swordsman. Even if one is omniscient, it cannot be called enlightenment, and even if one is enlightened, they cannot be omniscient, and even if one is omniscient and enlightened, they may still not be worthy of being called a saint. After a fateful encounter with a Taoist who pursues immortality, the main character is blessed with a painting from the old man who calls himself an old monk. The painting later on consumes the mind of the main character and makes him an idiot among the people, but after years of staring at the marvelous painting, he gains something that would be an inheritance from the old monk. And now the path towards greatness is laid before him, and he shall take it. This is the story of a simple boy who experiences major setbacks and fortunate encounters that completely change his life from being a less than normal citizen to achieving the title of the Undefeatable Swordsman. This story has some Peerless Dad vibes to it in the beginning of the story, but it would be a shame to describe it just like that. It has a beautiful art style, good pace, and great narration. I highly recommend this for people who are interested in a main character who starts weak and dumb but quickly surprises others with his actual and latent talents that would make him just as overpowered as he can be. Number 5. Return of the Manhwa Sect. It took an army led by the main character countless deaths with rivers of blood and mountains of corpses to do what? To kill the heavenly demon Chumma. After the long battle, the main character finds himself the only remaining one, witnesses the last moments of the heavenly demon, and beheads the hateful enemy that took everything from him, and just like that, he dies because of the severe injuries. But death wasn't the end for him. He, who was known as a disciple of the Manhwa sect and one of the best swordsmen at the time, is reincarnated in a new body of a boy. He realizes after that too much time has passed since the fateful battle, and comes to know that his sect is now perishing. Of course, he decides to stop that and make the Manhwa sect great again. With his knowledge as one of the biggest shots of the Manhwa sect in history, he shall build up the power of the sect, starting with the disciples and businesses, while harnessing his own skills and martial arts to eliminate everything and everyone that dare stand in his way to greatness. The main character is quite mischievous and playful when it comes to certain things, and that makes him different from other main characters. Also, the art style of the manhwa is great, so why not give it a shot? Number 4. The Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon. After he and his teacher were framed for learning demonic arts, multiple forces joined together to eliminate the both of them. The main character finds himself alongside his teacher helpless, and eventually they die. He later on finds himself in a new body of a boy in a dark cave which is used to train kids from a very young age. And ironically, he comes to know that he has been reincarnated in the Heavenly Demon sect. After the main character decides what he needs to do, he starts his long journey of becoming one of the best among his peers in the demonic sect to attain power and strength enough for him to overpower his enemies and achieve his goals for sure. He aims for the seat of the young leader before he aims to be the leader of the sect and become the Heavenly Demon himself. The art style in this manhwa is also good, just like the other works mentioned before, and improves over time too. I highly recommend this for people who are looking for a detailed story about each stage the main character needs to go through before he becomes the strongest man in the world of Murim. Number 3. The Constellation that returned from hell. In a world of hunters, dungeons, monsters, and constellations who are seen as something close to what humanity calls gods, the story begins with the main character who is obsessed with his martial arts, which he wants to use to be a high-ranking hunter, even though martial arts are considered weak in comparison to magic. One day, a constellation appears to him and suggests that he goes on a long-term training session to be ready for the catastrophe that will sure come to Earth according to her prophecy, and of course he accepts. He goes to the Abyss, a place where constellations prevail and compete with each other, but accidentally becomes lost. He then starts his journey in the Abyss, trains for thousands of years as time passes there, differently than on Earth, and challenges multiple enemies, each stronger than the one before, till he becomes a constellation himself. He runs across some funny folks and picks up some of them along the way, But as for what happens with the goddess, I will let you figure this out while reading this because it's quite funny. Number 2. Murim Login. In a world of hunters and dungeons, the main character is only an F-rank hunter that could make so little money to manage his life. One day he runs across a gaming capsule that looks very old and shabby, but he collects it anyway because of curiosity and puts it in his room. After finding it hard to sleep because of his loud sleeping friend, he tries to use the capsule to have a good sleep away from the annoying snoring of his friend. What he realizes next is that he is now in a different world. He thinks first that the world is only virtual since he was in a gaming capsule that is used for virtual reality games, but very soon he comes to know that he cannot log out. Now he needs to fulfill certain conditions to have the right to leave this world. He lives there for some time before he finally manages to log out and promises himself to not go in that capsule ever again. Yet after that he realizes that he actually gained something from the capsule, or rather that world which was Murim. The gifts that he brought back from that world and the connections he formed there, all these things make him unable to abandon the capsule. Therefore he returns again to the world he promised himself to never go to again. Now the main character has the ability to live in two worlds while gaining a lot of benefits, since time passes very slowly on each world when he goes to one of the worlds. And yeah, you guessed this right, the art style in this one is good too. Number 1. Nano Machine. The main character is born as one of the heirs of the leader of the Heavenly Demon Sect, but he is just an heir in name. His mother was killed because of jealousy from the other wives of the leader, and he has been targeted by assassins for a long time. One day, with another attempt of assassination, the main character faces death and thinks it is truly the end this time, to only be surprised like the enemies by the appearance of someone who claims to be a descendant of the main character from the future. The descendant eliminates the assassins and injects the main character with a nano machine that later on serves a big deal and makes the main character join the harsh battle between the heirs in the demonic academy. The nano machine gives him multiple super abilities and makes him overpowered so he can avenge his late mother and claim the throne of the Heavenly Sect for himself. The art style in this manhwa is my favorite amongst all the others in this video, and the pace is just pleasing. Slapping and crashing in this story is so satisfying, and what makes it like that is the merciless main character. Believe me, you will not be left with a cocky character living leisurely for so long, as their lives will be taken or messed up by the main character for sure. Well, I hope you guys found something to read. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this one, so I can say my favorite word in the world. See you again when opening another box.